Hello there, Sarah from 17 once again. This is my Batman Arkham Origins New Game Plus video walkthrough. This is Bane's HQ to the Pioneer Bridge, and there's not really much to do in this place. It's kind of a ruse. It's one of those red herrings the game throws at you so that it can establish a plot point that comes later on. And because I take the cutscenes out of my videos, or I skip them as you saw them, you're missing out on a lot of the exposition, and thus you have zero context as to what the hell is going on. But that's because this is a guide, and if you want the story, you should be watching a playthrough, or you should be playing the game, and I fervently believe that, folks. And that might be something that you don't agree with, but unfortunately that's something that you'll never agree with me on, and this channel will never ever adhere to that. So gameplay is what this focuses on. I would like to do guides that feature full storyline in them. I would like to do, various different projects that perhaps are slightly different to these, but the problem is that's where you get most of the copyright bullshit, and it's hilarious how an automated system, because that's exactly what it is, folks. It is an algorithm in YouTube that is so anally retentive and paranoid that you are somehow going to get YouTube in trouble for fraud, that it triggers on the... It's got a hair trigger for any single buzzword that is remotely copyrighted or close to any kind of owned property or identity. And I get it completely, because lawsuits between companies as big as Google are huge and expensive, and all they do is hemorrhage money. That's all that happens. It's just this bureaucratic bullshit, and it hemorrhages money, and they don't want it, so they have to have these safeguards. But I never see these safeguards bothering PewDiePie. I never see fucking... I don't know the name of the guy, but the guy who does professional video walkthroughs, which... Personally, I don't think that guy would know professional if a guy in a beret splashed milk on him and, got hit by a paintball from Matilda's rifle. But that's just me. Like, I don't see him having trouble when he's posting fucking Battlefield 4 a week before the game's even out. I don't see him having trouble when he's nearly got the entire Assassin's Creed 4 game up when it's not even out yet. Yet, this game is out and I'm getting copyright ID claims and I'm a tiny channel. It's so frustrating. And the one saving grace of it is that your guys don't see that. Your guys get to listen to the videos, you get to watch the videos, you get to dictate what you do and what you watch. It's essentially television without the ads. Although there are ads, and they're skippable ads, but there are still, sometimes ads. But what I mean by ads is television without the bullshit. And I think that's what everybody wants. We want television without the bullshit, and that's what makes streaming and that's what makes YouTube so entertaining and so goddamn amazing. Anybody in the world with any proclivity can watch what they want and something they enjoy. Not everyone's going to like what you like, and that's the point. That's why there's such a rich breadth of content. That is why I make content. That's why every content maker makes content. But it's the bullshit you don't see that can make it a nightmare for your favourite content producer to put things up. And I've made a gross generalisation with the statements I've made so far in this video, because the big guys might get a lot of trouble with this. It's just a case of I don't see their struggle. But one thing I can definitely say is the bigger you are, the higher priority you are to YouTube, because you're making them money, and at the end of the day you're their golden boy and they want to promote their golden boy. And that's the reason why whenever you click on a video you get the same recommended channels at the side, and they're all the channels that don't need any fucking help at all, because they've got millions of people already watching them. It's this self-fulfilling prophecy of just insanity. But it shouldn't be that difficult at this point. These algorithms should already know that gaming is a very interesting media when it comes to copyright claims, and fair usage is an extremely powerful tool against those so-called copyright claims. And at this point in time, I think there's almost universal consensus that the YouTube playthroughs are artistic representations of fair usage footage. We're not stealing from the companies. We're not, exploiting them or subjugating them in any way. The only thing that is happening here is they're getting free publicity and people are getting paid to do something that they enjoy and something that they love. It's a win-win. There's no loss here, guys. It's not like we're stealing money from Target. It's not like we're taking, a percentage. We're not. And the only company that even thought remotely like that was Nintendo, who have now reversed their position because they've realised, hang on a second here, I think we're fucking high. Because it was the most ridiculous statement to ever make. They were trying to take the proceeds from other people's creative, impressions from other people's creations, which is bullshit. As much as you dislike somebody putting a mustache on the Mona Lisa, you have to acknowledge that that is in his art now. He has created something highly controversial, but no less artistic. And you might not think it's good art, because art is so subjective. It's one of those things where you can look at something and you think, that's just a bed filled with condoms. That isn't art. That is a room in dire need of a lady, or of a man with a more solid sex life that doesn't involve, frivolous gangbangs with mass condoms. It doesn't scream art, but to some people it's conformist, it's so Renaissance, it's weird. But I'll never understand why they pick up on these little things, and they're always ID matches, and the ID matches are from the people who designed the game. It's like, yes, the content doesn't belong to Warner Brothers, the game does. This is my content. Let me have what's mine. And fair usage is a very confusing law, because there are a lot of things that do void it, and you have to be careful. And one of them is the cutscenes. The cutscenes and the music can be massive for it, but you'll notice I'm remove cutscenes. They're all gone. The music is dimmed because the audio is dimmed so that the voice fits better over it. It's so much bullshit, and I do apologise if you're wanting me to talk gameplay here, guys, but I have to share these thoughts because this is the type of stuff that happens behind the scene, and it's just an inconvenience to everybody. This, however, is a Predator room. You can see that by the abundance of gargoyles. Definitely makes me wonder, would this be a different game if the architectures hadn't been so goddamn, just obsessed with random seats on every wall. Like, I'm trying to think in Gothic architecture if there are any representations of a gargoyle inside. Isn't the whole notion of gargoyles is to keep demons and spirits outside? Never mind. This room's a fun room. This room reminds me of the room in Arkham City where you go underground, and I think anybody will agree that it's very reminiscent of that. It's not the same by any means, but it's very reminiscent. And my strategy is simple. There's a shit ton of gargoyles. The ones on the inside edge, the ones I'm facing, those ones over there, they are booby-trapped, so do not touch them. The ones on the outside are perfectly fine. What you want to do is you want to systematically take out the dudes, be it string them up to gargoyles, be it, knock them out silently, whatever you want to do. Very simple stuff. It can go messy very quickly though, and the checkpoint on this section is, I believe, before the door you even enter, which I'll never understand how checkpoints are designed. I think the only way I'll ever understand it is if I do it as a job, which is something I would love to be a part of, that part of balancing of the game. I have no idea what the title of somebody like that is. Gameplay designer? I don't know. But my fascination for the egregious checkpoints in games just has no end. It has no boundaries. I will constantly be mystified as to why certain choices are made. And I'm hoping that I'll be able to bring answers to you folks when I clear that fog of ignorance. Because I don't know. I don't know the same way. I'm not a programmer. I don't know how to program. So programming to me looks like magic. It probably looks like the first explorers that ever showed up, to some foreign land, to the indigenous people, before they then said, this is ours, stuck a flag in the ground and then killed everybody. And then took the women and raped them, because, we were fantastic visitors to every nation before we claimed it and sacked it and raided it and all that good stuff. But the cool thing about these moments is it's kind of like you've got a shopping list of what to do. That was a mistake. I meant to, it's one of those things where when you try and do actions really quickly on this game, it can betray you, especially when the lock-on, like the assumption of where you want to go, the RB indicator, look how quickly it fluctuates between the statues, which is a good thing, but at the same time, it can catch you out if you're trying to do something too quickly, and it decides, I don't like that one, I like that one, and it puts you in the shit. Speaking of shit, I just took a shotgun to the chest, so it's time to escape the buckshot. I took another shot then. But the logic of this game seems to be if you evade 2 gargoyles away, you are completely invisible again. Which is a good opportunity for a tangent. One of the assassins in this game is called Deadshot. You'll remember him from Arkham City because there was a side quest that involved following the trace of his bullets. And you do a very similar thing on this game. You only do it once though, and it leads to a boss encounter. And seeing as our borrowing mechanics from a previous game, the boss encounter is borrowed as well. If anybody remembers the fight against Two-Face with Catwoman, where Two-Face is walking around and he's got a ton of goons with him, and you have to take him out, or do takedowns on him about 40 times before you kill him, because it's just completely stupid, redundant, and the worst fight on that game. They brought it back. They brought it back for Deadshot. I have no idea why. I was trying it last night and I died, and I just did not want to do it. I didn't want to play it because it wasn't fun. You're in the Gotham Merchant Bank. There is a ton of dudes, and there's Deadshot walking around who just looks like a guy in a bomber jacket with a laser coming out of his arm. You know, he looks so generic and bad that I didn't even realise it was Deadshot. I just went down to try and choke a dude, and it turned out the dude was the guy talking to me. So it shows how much attention I was paying. But I start fighting him, and it's the exact same thing. You can't do silent takedowns on him. You have to do loud because he counters them. And obviously when you do a loud takedown, it alerts everybody in the room where you are. What a fantastic mechanic. I just think it's terrible, terrible design. Completely terrible design. And I did 5 or 6 beatdowns on him. I got his life really low, and then I got shot by some dudes when I was trying to escape to a gargoyle, and it killed me. And the checkpoint was outside the room. So I was like, yeah, might never do this, because this is about as fun as piercing my ballsack with a pin. It's just not cool. But on a serious note, I will play it, and I will beat it. I just really dislike that setup of fight. I think there's a way that can be done, and I think there's a way that it can be done badly, and this is a great example of how it's done badly. Yeah, if anybody played on Arkham City, the DLC, where you got to play as Robin, who I really liked to play as, he was a cool combat guy. There was a boss on that, Harley Quinn, who was very similar to Two-Face, but the area that you fought her in was set up in such a way that it made a lot more sense than the room you fought Two-Face in, than the room you fight Deadshot in. So I can understand them wanting to use the mechanic. I just... like, how do you do that fight without being spotted? How do you do that fight without taking damage? I just don't see a way. And I'm hoping that's because I've not discovered one. You know, I've not put the time in. And I'm hoping that I'll report back to you with a video of me beating him with a super cheap strategy that absolutely shits down his cereal and, you know, balance is restored to the universe. But I'm almost certain that that's not what's going to happen. Because sometimes bosses are just shit, I guess. And we've got to accept it. And it is kind of sad, because he's one of the major assassins in the, you know, a bunch of assassins go to kill Batman on Christmas Eve. So you would want it to be a really interesting fight, seeing as how there's really no build-up to it. You literally solve one puzzle, and then you're fighting him. And then there's the other ones, the Shiva one, which I've not found yet, and I don't know any of the others, but... like the boss we're about to fight on the bridge, the Firefly, it's hilariously easy because the jizz grenade just ruins him. But at the same time, it's really fun because it's different. It's kind of like the Poison Ivy fight off of Arkham Asylum, only without the challenge of that fight and those ridiculous ground thorns that just really made that fight more challenging than it needed to be. You know, it's weird. You're using your items to beat the boss. You're not just beating it up or, you know, pulling levers and stuff. And I think that's really cool and interesting, and I had a lot of fun with it. And it, like all the bosses on the game, except for Bane and except for Deadshot now, I think are stellar. They're really, really different to the stuff you've done before in a Batman game. But this is another Predator room. And I always start it off, by doing the double ledge takedown, and then from here it's just personal preference. Do you string them together? Do you string them up? Do you pull them off balconies? Do you use the sonic boomerang to lure them? It's all preference. Like, there's even an explosive canister there, so if I time it correctly, I can probably hit one with it and get a nice quick knockout. But instead, I'm trying to go up against cover on this wall, and it's not having any of it. And I don't know about your folks, but I have a lot of problems with games where when you go into cover, you can see yourself not in the cover right. First time I came across it was Kane and Lynch. And that was the first of a litany of problems with that game. But it never sits right with me when you're not in the cover. It just seems very strange that they would get that wrong. That there was ironic. The guy turns around just as I go to do the silent takedown, and it screws me a little bit, but he panics because he's terrified, which saves me, because if he didn't, he would have shot me in the face and it would have hurt. Another thing about the gradual deformation of Batman's outfit, have you noticed how his mask never takes good damage? Like, why does his cowl never have one of the ears like completely torn off? Or like, I'd say half of his face, man. Let's get some of that jawline out, because you know he's got a good one, because everybody in this game's built like a brick shithouse, except for maybe Alfred. One thing I found too on this game in particular is the Joker. Joker has a very jovial and, you know, cartoonish sense about him and sensibilities, but there were moments in this game where he turns it on. He turns his maliciousness on and his capability for violence on, which I've never really been unsettled like that by the Joker in a long time. And I think that's a great thing, because it makes you realise that this, you know, in between all this craziness and all this, you know, bombast that he has, there is still that psychotic killer that's in there. And those couple of instances where that comes out, I really enjoyed. But that's the end of the video, guys. Only thing left to be said is thank you for watching the videos, thank you for supporting the channel, and if you're new and you enjoyed it, I hope you watch more, and I hope you find a new home. So, thank you all for taking the time, and you take care now.